Welcome back to another episode of the Wellness Inspired Podcast, a place where you can find inspiration, motivation, and empowerment in the pursuit of a wellness lifestyle. I'm your host, Sherry Davidson. I am a wellness coach, acupuncturist, trail runner, and former interior designer in Houston, Texas. And I am deeply passionate about health and well-being. And as always, I'm here with my co-host, Finn. And if you're new to the podcast, Finn is my terrier mixed rescue dog, trail runner, and loyal companion. He is also a therapy dog and greeter at Element 5 Acupuncture and Wellness. And I am really looking forward to today's episode because I was reading something recently that stopped me in my tracks. It was a post from someone in luxury hospitality, and they were talking about how the industry is changing. They said that today's traveler doesn't just want to be impressed anymore. They want to be recognized. They want continuity. They want relevance. And they want to participate in shaping their own experience. And the line that really got me was this. When a guest moves from passive recipient to co-creator, luxury becomes a dialogue, not a performance. And I sat there thinking, that's exactly what happens in good coaching. So today, I want to talk about co-creation, self-determination, and what it really means when someone moves from being told what to do to actively designing what works for them. So whether you're working on your own wellness or you're creating experiences for others, this shift changes everything. All right, let's jump in. So let's start with what I was reading, because even though I'm not a hospitality expert, the pattern they're describing is everywhere. The oldest model was deliver incredible experience, impress the guest, and hope they come back. It was performance-based. The property, the retreat, the program, they were the star. The guest was there to receive. But something is shifting. People don't just want to be wowed anymore. They want to be seen. They want experiences that recognize who they are, what they need, and where they're going. They want to participate in shaping what happens, not just consume what's been designed for them. When I read that, I thought about every client I've ever worked with who came to me after a retreat, a vacation, a wellness experience. They'd say things like, "It was amazing while I was there, but when I came home, I didn't know what to do with that." Because they were passive recipients. They were inspired, but they weren't empowered. And inspiration without integration doesn't last. So let's start with this. What does co-creation look like? In coaching, co-creation means we're not working from a script. I'm not handing you a plan and saying, do this and you'll be fine. We're building something together, something that fits your life, your energy, your reality. You bring the context, I bring the structure and support. And together, we figure out what actually works. That's a completely different relationship than expert tells you what to do, you try to follow it, you blame yourself when it doesn't stick. And here's the thing. When someone moves from passive recipient to co-creator, everything changes. They stop looking for the perfect plan and they start trusting their own feedback. They stop waiting for permission and they start making decisions. They stop feeling like wellness is something they have to force and start experiencing it as something they're designing. That's not just a better coaching experience. That's a different outcome. And there's research that backs this up, and it's called self-determination theory. It says that people thrive when 3 psychological needs are met: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy means you have a sense of choice and control. You're not just following orders. You make decisions that feel aligned with who you are. Competence means you're building skills and confidence. You're not just being told what to do. You're learning how to do it and getting better over time. And then there's relatedness. This means you're connected to something or someone that matters. You're not isolated in your efforts. You're supported. And when those 3 things are present, people don't just follow through, they integrate. The habit becomes part of how they live and not something that they're trying to maintain through willpower. And that's what co-creation creates. When someone participates in designing their own wellness plan, They're not just receiving instructions, but actively shaping what works. They experience autonomy. When they learn why something works and how to adapt, they build competence. And when they're supported by someone who sees them, believes in them, they feel connected. That's not coaching as delivery. That's coaching as partnership. So here's where this gets interesting for anyone creating wellness experiences, whether that's retreats, resorts, workplace programs, or anything in between. If the goal is lasting impact, co-creation isn't optional. It's the mechanism. Think about what happens at most wellness experiences. Someone comes in, they participate, they feel incredible, they leave inspired, and then life happens. The conditions that created the transformation aren't there anymore. The support is gone, the structure is gone, and they're left trying to recreate the feeling on their own. That's not failure of motivation, that's a gap in design. And the research backs this up. Recently, there was a study done with Miraval Resorts guests that tracked their well-being before, during, and after their stay. What they found was a striking 62% of guests reported reduced stress levels at 60 days after they left. But here's what really stood out to me. The guests who experienced the biggest improvements weren't just the ones who meditated more and did more activities. They were the ones who felt a sense of community, the ones who formed friendships, the ones who felt like they belonged. In fact, 95% of the guests reported a strong sense of community during their stay, and over 70% formed new relationships and friendships. In other words, they didn't just need more practices to take home. They needed connection. They needed co-creation. They needed to feel like active participants in their own transformation, not passive recipients of someone else's plan. But now I have a question. Think about this. What if the experience didn't end at checkout? What if part of the experience was co-creating what comes next? Not a generic plan, a real conversation. What resonated? What felt doable? What needs to shift to make this sustainable at home? That's integration. And integration is what turns a beautiful experience into lasting change. When a guest or a client moves from passive recipient to co-creator, they don't just remember how they felt. They know how to keep feeling it. They're not dependent on the experience. They're empowered by it. And for the brand, the retreat, the program, that's not just transformation, that's loyalty. That's connection. That's someone who doesn't just come back because the experience was beautiful. They come back because it worked. Now, you might be asking, so what does this actually look like? Well, I can speak for me, and in my work, it means I don't start by telling someone what to do. I start by asking what they've noticed. What's working, what isn't, what feels aligned, what feels forced. We use their experience as data, and we build from there together. It also means I don't hold all the answers. My job isn't to be the expert who has the perfect plan. My job is to be the partner who helps them figure out their plan. That requires trust. It requires patience. It requires a belief that people are capable of designing their own wellness. They just need structure, support, and someone who believes they can. And when that happens, the outcomes are completely different because the person isn't trying to follow someone else's rules. They're building a life that actually fits them. All right. Well, I think that covers everything. So yeah, let's wrap it up to what I keep coming back to. The future of wellness, whether it's coaching, hospitality, corporate programs, or anything else, isn't about perfecting the delivery. It's about inviting people into the design. Because when someone participates in creating the solution, they own the outcome. And when they move from passive recipient to co-creator, wellness becomes a dialogue, not a performance. And that's when it lasts. So if you're working on your own wellness, ask yourself, am I designing this or am I just trying to follow? This is what happens when people chase trends and influencers. This topic comes up a lot. So just think about that. Okay, so that is if you're working on your own wellness. And if you are creating wellness experiences for others, ask, are we giving people something to consume? Or are we giving them the tools to co-create what works? That shift from delivery to dialogue, from performance to partnership, that's where real transformation happens. All right, I think that's a wrap. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really did. I'm Sherry Davidson, and this is the Wellness Inspired Podcast. Bye. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and share with your family and friends. You can also give me a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps others find me as well. To get updates on new episodes and wellness inspiration in your inbox, please join the Wellness Inspired community. Go to thewellnessinspiredpodcast.com to sign up. I'll put the link to the website in the show notes so you can click and join. Also, there's a Facebook community at The Wellness Inspired, and you can follow me on Instagram at wellness_inspired. If you're in the Houston area or just visiting and interested in our services, acupuncture, herbal medicine, cupping, zen shiatsu, or dry needling therapy, contact us. You can find out more on our website at element5om.com. That's element5, the number 5om.com. And again, I'll put the link in the show notes. If you're interested in health and wellness coaching, we can connect in the clinic or on Zoom. Reach out to us and we'll get you on the schedule. And as always, I would love to hear your feedback. I am dedicated to bringing you great content that is inspiring and informative with an artsy, fun, edgy spin. Thank you so much for listening. We'll meet here again next time. And remember, never stop exploring, learning, loving, and being you. Bye.